You got nothing.
I got nothing. Hi, guys.
Oh
hello and hello again. It is the Mother Days you are listening to. I'm Teresa Palmer.
And I'm Sarah Wright Olsen. I'm actually looking through all of your guys' DMs right now. I'm like, what does everybody want to hear about? Oh, somebody wants to hear some VBAC stories, birth stories. Okay, these are all great mentions.
We need some more birth stories on the pod.
Great. We're on it.
We're on it, you guys. Cool. So, hi from Australia, still here, Melbourne. I'm working on a show here, as you guys know. I'm working with one of my very good friends, who I can't say her name because it hasn't been announced yet. But anyway, it's one of my very good actress friends.
She's an amazing actress, so that'll be exciting.
She's an amazing actress. She's really gorgeous. You guys can guess. Anyway, we're in a show together here in Melbourne, which is so nice because we've been friends for such a long time. And then we're like, are we going to do this together? Woo.
I'm sorry.
Bless you.
Thank you.
So anyway, I was going to tell this really crazy mum guilt story. So I think everyone can relate to this. I really suffer from FOMO. I don't know. Do you as well, Sarah? Do you have FOMO about things?
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard for me to miss like a performance or a, like thing that like the kids have going on, or I don't really have FOMO outside of like my kids. Yeah,
that's what I mean. So my girls, when I got to Melbourne, I was like, we are the traveling nomads. Like, we are always around in different cities. Kids are going to different schools. We got friends in all these different places. And I was like, you know what I haven't been so on top of is extracurricular activities. So I was like, okay, this time round, the boys are in school and I'm going to just make sure the kids all have activities. So on a Monday night, the boys do boxing. On a Tuesday night, the girls do swimming. On a Wednesday night, the boys are back at boxing. On a Thursday, nothing. Friday night, we have gymnastics. Saturday, it's ballet. So when we started going to ballet, the girls are at a really great little ballet school here in Melbourne. And it's the same ballet school they were at last time we were in Melbourne and the time before that. So I have familiarity with the teachers and they're all like, hey, good to see you again. Hey, guess what? Like, the girls are doing the Nutcracker. We have a performance December 1st. And I was like, oh my God, Poet is going to flip out. All she talks about is wanting to be on stage and she just wants to perform and sing and dance. And so they got very excited, screaming, running around the house. And then they were like, okay, you've got to make sure that you don't miss the dress rehearsal. It's on the 3rd of November, Sunday, the 3rd of November. They're like, that's the dress rehearsal. The performance is in December, but the dress rehearsal is very important. It's mandatory. Everyone has to be there. Every dancer has to come dressed in their costumes. It's a whole big thing. Parents can stay and watch. And in fact, we want parents to stay and watch to just encourage the children and show them, like, this is what a stage looks like. This is how you get dressed behind the scenes. Anyway, so I had it in my calendar, November the 3rd. Cool. Good. Check. Done. I'm going to do it. Then I get an email being like, guess what? The boys' movie, Kangaroo Island, is at the Adelaide Film Festival, the closing night, November the 3rd, Sunday, November the 3rd, in Adelaide. And I was like, oh my God, like, what am I going to do? Do I show up and be there for the boys at their premiere, or do I go to the Nutcracker? And I'm like, Mark, help, like, how do we do this? Like, the girls have got to go. Do I get a babysitter to take the girls and then I go to Adelaide? And the Adelaide Film Festival, I think we're like, oh, are you guys going to come and like show up and support? And that's meaningful for the festival, for us to be there and be on the red carpet and take photos and support the movie. And so I was like, yes, I'll be there. Then, of course, like behind the scenes, trying to figure out the logistics of like, how do I go and show up for the boys, but also be there for the girls? And then the one silver lining was that the girls' performance was at 10 a.m. in the morning. And I was like, okay, well, the boys' thing isn't until nighttime on Sunday night. And I was like, okay, I could go to the girls thing in the morning in Melbourne and then catch a plane and get on a plane and go to the boys, like the pre-drinks and the red carpet event, and then I could go
my God.
to the cinema and show up for the boys. So Mark was like, okay, I'll take the boys on Saturday, the day before, because there was a few things we had to get ready for our house that's gone on sale in Adelaide. And he was like, I'll take the boys on the Saturday, you stay with the girls, and then I'll pick you up from the airport in Adelaide, and you'll go, like, you'll fly dressed and ready for the premiere, and we'll just go straight there. I was like, okay, cool, done, got it, got this. So I booked flights last minute. I was like, all right, I'm doing it. Bloody hell, I'm just doing it. Woo, it's going to be crazy. I'll be in Adelaide for 4 hours because I had to work the next day. I was getting picked up at 8:30 a.m. Monday morning in Melbourne. But the premiere the movie started at 7:30 p.m. And I had looked previously and the last flights out were at like 8:30 p.m. So I was like, okay, I could just drive. I could drive to Melbourne through the night. I could get in the car and just drive through the night and park on the side of the road and just have a little nana nap. And Mark's like, yeah, cool. You could do that if you wanted to get murdered. Fine. That's a great thing. Why don't you just go do that? Just drive through the night and then you have to film all day and then just park off to the side in the middle of the night. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, why do you think that that's like a viable option? I was like, okay, dumb idea. I'll just have to miss most of the movie. I can go for the first half and then I'll get the later flight out. And then as I was falling asleep, I was like, I'll just try a few other different airlines because I usually fly this one airline. And I was like, I'll just have a look at the others. And then I was like, oh my God, there's a 9:50 p.m. flight. Yes, this is amazing. Like I can just get that's so good. I can see most of the movie. Perfect. So I'm there and I get on the plane. I go to the premiere. I see everyone. My dad's come. My dad's friends there.
I saw those pictures. It was so cute.
It was so cute. Cass and Stu came. And by the way, Cass works for the Mother Days. Shout out to Cass. Woo woo. And so like we just had a bunch of people show up for the boys. It was really great. And then I got to see the first part of the movie. But then I noticed that my phone was almost dead. And I was like, oh my God, my phone is almost dead. I need to order an Uber to get to the plane on time.
Oh my God.
So I kept like hitting Mark in the movie being like, you have to order me an Uber. My phone's going to die. And it's like, okay, like why don't you just get to the airport early? Then you can charge your phone so you have your phone on the plane for any sort of situation. And I was like, okay, great. So I had Mark order me an Uber. I snuck out of the movie, ran up. I was still in my heels and I got into the car and I took off my heels to put my flats on that were in my bag.
Yeah.
And I only had one shoe in my bag. And I was like, what? Where's my other shoe?
Oh my God, that is so amazing.
It's so good. And I was like, I'm in heels.
It's insane.
My God. I'm like, what am I going to do? And by the way, I was meant to leave my heels with Mark and put my flat shoes on because they weren't even my heels. They were Susie's heels that I had borrowed that Mark had brought to me at the cinema and was like, here, put your heels on. Anyway, I was meant to leave the heels. I forgot to leave the heels and now I'm in heels and I don't have any other shoes. So I'm like, great, I'm going to be strutting around Melbourne airport in like stilettos. Fantastic.
Oh no.
I was just like, this is a nightmare.
Do they have like a place where you could buy like a flip-flop or something or anything?
So I get to the airport looking like it's just so embarrassing. It's like the walk of shame or something. I was like, oh my God, I'm in these heels and I'm walking through this airport. I'm so not dressed to be on a plane.
Oh my God.
It gets worse. So I've texted Mark being like, look for my shoe. My shoe's there somewhere. I've dropped it. They're my favorite shoes. Like, you need to find her. After the movie, go find my shoe. And he was like, yes, Cinderella. Anyway,
oh my God.
I get to the airport and I walk to check in and there's no one there. And I'm like, oh, I'm so early. Like, why is there no one here? Weird. So then I just see this one woman and I was like, hello there. Sorry, I need your help. I'm trying to check in and it says Teresa Palmer. And then for some reason it says to Brisbane, but I'm not going to Brisbane. I'm going to Melbourne.
Oh my God.
She was like, no, you're not going to Melbourne. There's
my God.
Melbourne flight tonight. And I was like, what? She was like, we don't fly at 9:50 p.m. to Melbourne. And I was like,
oh my God.
Why does it say Brisbane on there? And then she was like, I don't know. Let me check the system. And she was like, yeah, no, you don't have a flight tonight at all. And I was like, hang on a second, let me show you. Look at my screenshot. Show her the screenshot. And she was like, look at the date. And I accidentally booked my flight back to film in Melbourne, by the way, needing to get back so I can film the very next morning. I booked it for the following weekend.
No.
It was for the following Sunday.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God.
So I cut to sheer panic. My phone dies. And I was like, my phone's dead. And she was like, here, charge it here. I was like, I don't even have the right cord for my phone. And she was like,
you didn't have the right cord?
Charge it here. I had brought a USB cord and my thing, I grabbed it so quickly. I had a USB cord. I needed a USB-C.
Oh my God. I'm having like PTSD from your like carrying around your old keyboard. And you're like, hold on, let me give my computer, my laptop. I have to plug in my extra keyboard.
My external keyboard plugged into my laptop because like I couldn't be bothered going and getting my laptop fixed. I carried that around for about 3 years. So I was like, oh my God, I can't even charge my phone. And I started being like, and then I said to her, and I was like, I need to be on set tomorrow morning at 8:30. And she was like, what? And I was like, I'm filming. I need to be on set. It's not like a normal job. You can't just miss a day of work. Like that doesn't ever happen. Like, I can't do this. I need to be there. And I was like, I'm driving to Melbourne. I need a car. I need to go get a car. I need to go hire a car. Oh my God, I'm getting in a car right now in my stilettos and I'm driving to Melbourne. And then she was like, wait, there are other options. And then she was like, oh my God, were you in Warm Bodies?
Oh my God.
I was like, yes, I was. That's me. And she was like, oh my God. She was like, oh, that's so cool. I really love that movie. Okay, let me help you out here. I think it sounds ridiculous for you to actually drive right now in the middle of the night, through the night. I don't think it's a good idea. Why can't I'll just get you on the 6 a.m. flight. The 6 a.m. flight will get you in at 8 a.m. You could then drive straight to work or get someone to pick you up and you could go straight to work. And I was like, oh my God, they did not approve me doing this. Like I was not allowed to fly the morning of filming. I was only approved to fly the night before. And she was like, well, I think this is your only option. I totally got mothered by this woman. She was so beautiful. And she was like, this is what you need to do.
Oh my God.
Check in next door at the hotel, at the airport hotel. You're going to get on this plane and it's all going to be sweet. And I was like, oh my God, thank you so much for being such a darling. And then I'm not going to out who this person is.
I know.
And then she printed me the ticket. She checked me in and gave me the ticket. I didn't pay. She literally was like, God bless you. Here you go. You're checked in. You're on the flight. Go get some sleep. You're on the flight. Don't worry about it.
What?
She literally just put me on the plane.
That's insane.
It's insane.
That's like a story I've never heard before ever in my life.
Ever. And I was like, this woman mothered me. I was just laughing with Sarah because I was like, actually, I'm going to just cut out the name of the airline because I do not want this person to get caught.
No, you do not.
Anyway,
No.
she literally showed up and took care of me, and it was so beautiful.
To sleep? Could you sleep?
No, so then I had to message Mark and I was like, Mark, and you're going to kill me. This is what happened. I could have stayed. I could have watched the movie and now I'm at the airport hotel, and they had nowhere to sleep that night anyway. They were going to stay at Susie's house. And I was like, this room is really big. Like, you guys could just come here and stay in the other. I've got 2 king beds in here. And he was like, all right, we're on our way. And I found your shoe, Cinderella. Like, what even are you? Who are you? Like, who is this person? It's so you. And I was like, I remember being so surprised that there was a 9:50 p.m. flight. I was like, oh my God, I swear to God, when I looked, this wasn't here. And now suddenly it's here. Anyway, so that was my debacle. And luckily, Mark came to the room. I gave him the stilettos. I got my shoe back so I could wear flats on the plane.
You were like, and I'm going to bed.
I was still in my outfit the next morning, which really was the walk of shame because it's like a 6 a.m. outfit, like in a gown.
Basically,
I wasn't in a gown. I was in like a
I feel like you
designer
had a suit.
skirt. I was in like a designer skirt and shirt thing.
Yeah.
And I was like just rocking it at 6 a.m. in the morning. And I made it to work 30 minutes early. So there you go.
You were 30 minutes early? So your flight got in early.
Oh, wait, I didn't even tell you the best part. Then I go to sleep. This was the craziest part of it all. Try to go to sleep and I was like, set my alarm for 5 a.m. Yeah. And then I had a call coming in at 5 a.m. to wake me up as well. And I made Mark set his alarm for 5 a.m. as well. So there was just alarms everywhere going off at 5 a.m.
And so someone was calling you.
Midnight, I was like, all right, now I'm finally going to get to sleep. Everyone got back. They were falling asleep. The boys are falling asleep. And then I'm falling asleep. I've got my earplugs in. I'm finally like, oh, okay, I'm going to try and sleep. And then I get a phone call at midnight from a neighbor being like, hello, I'm just letting you know I have your dogs on the street here. They're running around the street. And I was like, oh my God, can you please take them back to my house? I'm so sorry. I know it's midnight, but I'm in Adelaide and this is my address in Melbourne and we're staying in Richmond. And she was like, I'll try. I'm a bit drunk though. I'm out with my friends. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. My mum is there alone at the house with my little girl. She'd be asleep. She'd have no idea the dogs are out. Like, I don't know, unless you can take them home and take care of them for the night. And she's like, they almost got hit by a tram. And I was like, oh my God, please. What? If you could just this is the address. This is what the house looks like. Just drop them off. I'll ring my mum and see if I can wake her up. And of course,
what is this life?
I was like, my mum's not answering the phone because it's obviously on silent or something.
She's got her
middle of the
sleep
night.
apnea machine on.
She's got the sleep apnea machine on. So she couldn't
hear it anyway.
And I was like, if this woman drops the dogs back into the yard, they're just going to escape however they got out already. So I was like, what is even the point of her putting them back if I can't get my mum to bring them inside the house? So I ring her like 30 times in a row, like over and over and over and over. Nothing. So I ring the woman back and I'm like, hi, if you could, I think their leashes are in the backyard. If you could just tie them up to something, a chair or a table or anything, like I'll try and get onto my mum. And then she was like, I'm so sorry. They ran away. They ran away again. And I was like, oh my God. So I'm lying in bed saying to Mark, I can't go to sleep now. The dogs are just running amok. Like now I need to drive to Melbourne. He was like, what is wrong with you? You will not get to Melbourne before your flight. You will get there quicker if you get on the plane. And I was like, because it's
how many hours is it again?
8 8-hour drive, which is just ridiculous. I was thinking the dumbest shit. And then I was like, oh my God, are the girls okay? Like, why isn't my mum answering? And then I'm just falling asleep, just thinking like, God, I hope the dogs are okay. Like I'll figure it out tomorrow. Then I get another phone call about 2:45 a.m.
Oh my God.
From the drunkest people I've ever heard on the phone ever. These like 19-year-old Aussie dudes being like, oh my God, we're just down here at the bloody Yarra and your dogs are fucking swimming in the Yarra. They're in the Yarra River. We're here smashing beers, me and my pals, and your dogs are just all fucking in the water. Yo, Brewski, bring back the dogs, like talking to each other. And I was like, if you can understand what I'm saying, please grab them by the collars, go into the wall, call their names. These are their names. Call them. And it's like, yeah, I saw your number and we wrote it down. And then now they're off in the water. And I was like, I need you to get them. I will pay you whatever you need. Just get the dogs. And then these like 3 young guys, like 18, 19, I don't know what they were doing that on a Sunday.
Oh, we know what they were doing.
Yeah, we all know what they were doing. Anyway, they walked my dogs home, my wet dogs, these 3 drunken boys walked my dogs home.
God.
And luckily, my mum finally answered the phone and I was like, Mum, the dogs are out. And the girls were screaming because the phone woke them up. So the girls are crying. And then she was like, there's a drunk guy. And I was like, I know he's drunk. Just take the dogs inside.
Him there.
I know. I was like, I literally sent the drunk guy and his pals.
Oh, the guy that's wasted, I gave him my address. I told him to go wake up my mom.
My mom with my little girls there, and Mark was like, this is fucked. You're telling him our address and they're so drunk. What if they're horrendous? Because then he was laughing, being like, I'm going to hold them ransom. I'm going to hold them ransom.
God.
And I was like, very funny. Like, that's not. And he was like, no, I'm a dog lover. I love dogs. And I was like, fantastic. So please drop them home. Oh my God. Anyway, nightmare. So I didn't have any sleep. And then I went straight to work all day long. And that was
you know the dogs are fine? The dogs were totally fine?
The dogs are fine. They're here. And then the next morning I rang up production and was like, please chicken wire like every single area of this fence so they don't get out again. And we have. I mean, it's like Fort Knox here. No one can get out. So anyway, there we go. That was what I was talking about, Sarah, when I texted you and said, I just had the craziest weekend. And the lesson is like the mum guilt. Sometimes you are spread too thin. Sometimes you can just be like, you know what? It's going to be okay if I don't make it to that one thing. Anyway, so there's my lesson.
I think you should take this as a lesson and a piece of advice, everyone out there.
Oh my God.
What's really great is that it like kind of worked out, but it came with like a lot of stress, no sleep. And like you probably didn't really laugh about it until later, right? Like in the moment, were you able to laugh at all?
I was telling everyone at set and they were just like, oh my God. Anyway, there we go, guys.
That is the worst. Last night I went to this event for Doan. I love Doan and the so RMS Beauty, which is a really amazing clean beauty brand. And I went there last night. I was talking to, of course, like I always find the moms, and then we all talk to each other about things that are going on. And and this mom was like, yeah, it's like hard. She has a new baby and she's like, it's really hard to, none of my friends have babies. And so like, I go to their house and like my baby spit up on their couch and I like feel really bad. And I'm like, oh, like they don't have a baby and I feel uncomfortable and like, whatever. So she's telling all these stories and I told her, I was like, just like take it as your sort of welcome to the club because you're going to eventually like start acquiring mom friends and then that's going to become normal and you're going to go to their house and their baby's going to spit up on their couch and they're going to laugh about it. It's fine. I was like, I went to my friend's house with Wyatt when he was like, oh my gosh, I think he was like 2 months old or something. And no one had babies yet. And I get there and he has a huge blowout in his diaper. And I was like, oh my God. And so then I go to change him and I lay a blanket down on her couch and I'm like trying to change him. And then I have this beautiful brand new like diaper bag that someone gifted me. It was so pretty. And I open it up and there's not one diaper inside of it. And I was like, oh my God, how did I leave the house without a diaper? And so she was like, what do we do? And I was like, I don't know. I was like, I have a burp cloth, I guess. And so we put the burp cloth around his butt inside of his pants and he had another blowout. And so she went and got washcloths and she put washcloths inside of his pants and we had washcloths. So I have this amazing photo. I'm going to try to find it. I have this amazing photo of Wyatt where his butt is like this big inside and like washcloths are like coming out of his pants everywhere. And I was like, it's such
do.
We just like do. There's all these like amazing stories from when you first become a mom where it's sort of like, it's such a foreshadowing into like all the things, like the things that you're dealing with now, right? Where you're like trying to do all the things and so many things go wrong and you're like, feel like you're juggling everything. And I remember how unbelievably overwhelming it felt to forget diapers and for your, you know, and like, it was before Instacart too. It's not like I could just like Instacart, you know, I gotta like, I'm like, I have to take this baby now, put him in the car seat in rags
and drive
and
then bring this pooey baby inside a grocery store.
And I was like, oh my God, is this crazy? I mean, the amount of times I've had to walk in with like a naked bottom baby and like, because the diaper thing didn't just happen like once. It's happened a few times.
Yes.
A few times. Oh my God. But I'm sure you have like moments like that have stuck out from throughout the years, right? Like things that you're like, no, my memory is terrible.
I was like, do you remember that I have no memory? I was like, yes.
Well, you looked up into the...
I was like, I'll go through the memory, which stops after about last week. So I don't know. Yes, I've definitely had those moments where you just sort of MacGyver it. I was talking to my friend Kate the other day about the sort of school that we want to, we're like, let's create our own school. And I was like, I want MacGyver lessons for people. I want like, if you're in a situation where you're just like, I don't know how to handle this and like, how can I piece together something to make a solution? Like, I was like, learning to be MacGyver-like would be really cool.
I mean, that's kind of like being a mom. I mean, that's what we do anyway, but yeah, on
the daily.
That's amazing. Okay. So sorry, hold on. I had a transition and then I looked outside and my mom was picking up what I thought was poop and it wasn't. It was a package. My mom is here right now.
Oh, your mom's here.
My mom is here. Debbie. My brother's here because they have the big Dia de los Muertos festival at our school and the kids are both performing and Esme performed this morning and she did like a solo and all these dances. Oh my God, I have to send you this dance. This girl is an amazing dancer. I was like, where did this come from? Like, she was so into it, so funny. Like, it was really cute. And then tonight, Wyatt performs. He sings, he dances, he does like the whole thing. I know, it's really sweet.
I wish
it's really sweet.
Auntie Tweezy. Oh, wow.
Someone was telling Eric the other day, like, oh my God, I love Sarah and Teresa's podcast. Like, it's so great. They had just found out that they were pregnant. And he's like, well, do you have their book? And she was like, they have a book? And Eric was like, Sarah, do you guys not talk about your book on the podcast? And I was like, well, we
not
have, but not in a long time.
We were sort of going chapter by chapter. Anyway, we have a book, guys. You can find it on Amazon.
Guys, we have a book. We wrote a book. It's called The Zen Mama Guide to Finding Your Rhythm in Pregnancy, Birth, and Beyond, I think. I love that we never really know the title.
Well, because it changed.
Zen Mamas? Anyway.
In Australia, it was the Zen Mama Guide to Finding Your Path Through Pregnancy, Birth, and Beyond. And then it changed to Rhythm in America.
Either way, it's great. It's really great. It takes you through everything before pregnancy, all through your pregnancy, all the things. It talks about pregnancy loss.
Yes, we have a whole chapter dedicated.
We have lots more to add to that when we update it eventually.
Yes, we do.
And then it goes through all the way into the like postpartum. And I feel like we should do a few pregnancy, birth podcast soon where we go through and talk just like an updated version where we talk about some of this stuff. Cause I feel like you guys, we've had a lot of people recently. I was just reading some of the DMs before to Teresa where people were writing about different parts of that. Like, you know, I'm pregnant right now and these are the anxieties that are coming up. These are the things that are happening for me. Or like, you know, I'm newly breastfeeding and it's really challenging. I didn't know it was going to be this challenging.
And then someone wrote in who recently had a miscarriage and she lost twins.
Yes.
And she was talking about the grief of that and the loss of that and feeling alone. And she was saying that us talking about it made her feel less alone, which was really, really beautiful. And of course, one of the reasons why we open up about that stuff.
Yes. And even when it's like not easy to open up about, but we do. And, you know, Teresa on the last solo talked about her IVF journey. And you guys know that I want to have another baby. And you guys know that like the beginning of the year, I had some cycle stuff happening because I had taken that medicine when I had my last pregnancy loss, and it really like messed up my cycle. But I did end up getting pregnant again. And I was pregnant over the summer. And, you know, like I didn't share that because it was really early. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to take this one step at a time, one day at a time. And it felt good. Like it was a lot of travel at the beginning of a pregnancy. So that part of it was challenging. I think I felt disconnected from like my healthcare provider. Like, you know, I felt like, you know, I wanted to be closer to home, but I also like wanted to do summer with our family and stuff like that. So I had a little bit of, you know, Eric and I were both like, should we just stay home? Like, what do we do? You know, but then we were like, oh, it's fine. We'll see how I feel.
We'll be fine.
And then,
And had you you'd had a scan at this point?
I did. Well, no, we started off traveling, came back, had a scan. It was
and everything was fine.
Early scan. Yeah. It was just like, there was a heartbeat, early scan, like 6 weeks something. And then we traveled again and we went to Idaho, and in Idaho, I was going to be there all the way up until like 10 weeks. And so I was sort of like talking to my doctor, like, is that okay that I'm not having a scan? And he was like, well, if anything seems off, like, you know, at any point, then let me know. And, you know, or you can get a scan there or like whatever it is, an ultrasound, right? And so everything did seem to be fine. I got really, really, really sick. At one point. Oh, you guys know about it because I told you on the podcast I had this horrible stomach thing. I got so ill from this stomach thing.
You were worried. Remember, you were texting me. And I was
worried. I was like, I don't know. Did I get listeria? Like, what did I, you know, what is this? It was so nuts. And no one else got it in my family. And I like couldn't figure it out. And about a week after that, I started spotting a little bit. And I was like, I know spotting is really normal for people in pregnancy, but spotting is not really normal for me. Like, it's just not something that's really happened to me in my healthy pregnancies. And so I felt like this makes me feel weird. And I just kept having this like weird feeling that day. And Eric was like, you know, I think for peace of mind, you need to go like get an ultrasound. And I was like, yeah, okay. So I went to get an ultrasound in Idaho, and it was like a little bit crazy.
Oh,
in retrospect, you know, I can laugh about this and I can like talk about this in such a very like, let me lay out all the details to you, because this has been many, many, many months. And I had lots of time to process with Eric. And like, you know, we went through I'll tell you about our like sort of levels of like moments of grief, our ups and downs with it. But like, I went to the hospital to get the scan, because first I saw like a clinic doctor, and then he was like, the ultrasound is at the emergency room, like hospital area. And so I went over to there to do that. And they just happened to have like a massive fire drill. And so I was in there waiting, and then there was like a fire drill. And so it was like, leave the building, get out of the building. You know, this big thing was like going, I was like, do I need to leave the building, or is this like real, or is it not real? I didn't know it was a fire drill, right? Everyone's scrambling. I'm like, are they moving patients out? Like, what's happening? And somebody was like, you got to go out of the building. And I was like, okay. So I go out of the building. I'm texting Eric. I'm like, I haven't gone in yet because there's maybe a fire drill, or maybe there's a fire. I don't know what's happening. I'm outside for a little bit, and then all of a sudden they're like, okay, great, everyone. That was our fire drill. Everyone did awesome. Let's go back in. I was like, cool. Okay, can we? I mean, I'm just like, I couldn't
this whole
be
thing
like.
was torturous because of the other parts as well, which I'm sure you'll explain.
Oh God, let's see if I remember. So then I go into the room finally, and the machine isn't working. And is that what you're talking about?
Well, I was talking about how I was like, happened to be in Idaho. No, I was in Jackson Hole at the time.
Oh my God, yes. You were in Jackson Hole.
I was testing for that show I told everyone that I thought I was going to get and I didn't get. That was the timing. Right. So was that August? Was it August? Yeah.
It was still July. It was still July.
Was it?
Yeah, it was July.
It was August. Okay. Anyway, and then you texted me being like, yeah, it's weird. Like, apparently you go in and then they won't tell you what they see on the screen.
That's right.
They'll call you afterwards, which is so
It wasn't
strange.
like a normal situation, right? Because it's a hospital and they have a protocol. And the protocol is that the ultrasound technician would get the information as she's doing the scan, and then she'll give it to the doctor, and the doctor will call you about an hour later. And I was like, that's torture. And plus, I've seen a lot of ultrasounds. Like, I know what to look for. I know exactly what I need to see. So I go in, and the lady's so nice, but the machine isn't working, and she has to kind of manually put all my information in. Let me just say that, like, the delay of all of this takes a really long time. And then we finally get to the place where, like, I technically should be 10-ish weeks at this point, almost 10 weeks. So really, she should, like, be able to do an over the belly ultrasound. But she was like, I'm just going to do an internal ultrasound, like, because of the bleeding that's happening. So there's just like a little bit of spotting. And so I was like, okay. And she goes to do it, and she turns the screen away from me right away. Before she sees anything, she turns the screen away. And I was like, well, how am I supposed to, like, figure this out?
Yeah.
And so I lay there for a minute, and I'm like, you know what? No, I'm not doing this. I was like, I need you to turn the screen towards me, or you got to tell me, like, are you not seeing a heartbeat? Is there not a heartbeat? And she was like, of course she's not supposed to really talk about it. And then she was like, no. And I was like, what? I was like, you're kidding. Like, can you measure? Like, how big is the baby? And she was like, it looks like the baby stopped growing around, like, close to 8 weeks. And I was like, oh my God. So I already had been 2 weeks past. So let's say I had gone to my, like, 8-week scan, potentially could have, like, seen this, right? But I wasn't able to do that, or didn't. I was just kind of like, oh, I'll just, like, see what happens. Yeah, whatever. And I was like, oh, okay. And Eric has the 3 kids, and he's really close by. But I went in on my own because I didn't want to bring them in to that moment, And so I called him from the table as she's continuing. She wants to go ahead and just check everything out. And I was like, great, check everything out. It's okay. Like, I almost felt like I needed to tell her, like, I'm okay. I've been through this before. And she was like, even though you've been through this before, even if you've been through it many times, it's okay to, like, be upset about it. Right. And so the moment she said that, I was like, I'm fine, but I was, like, starting to cry. And so then I'm calling Eric, and I'm like, I can't believe I'm telling you this, but, like, the baby didn't make it. I was like, I'm so sorry. Not that I did anything wrong, but I felt so sorry to be relaying this information again, and, like, for us to be experiencing this again. And it was so sad. And we were both just like, what? And like, you know, he was like, I can drive there right now. Like he was, you know, he was like a minute away. And I was like, no, I'm just going to like have her wrap up and then I'm going to come to you guys. And so I was going to drive straight home from there. Like I wrapped up with her. She was so lovely, like walked me all the way to the door. Like, you know, she was great energy. I got to the car and immediately I just started to like cry. I just couldn't believe it. I was like, what? I texted Teresa.
Oh God.
And was like,
I lost it.
And Teresa lost it too. I mean, we were both like, she had just come off of having a loss.
Yeah, a few months earlier.
And then I got pregnant almost a month later, a month and a half later or something. And then now I was having this like, we were sort of like ping-ponging these like pregnancy losses. And so then she was so invested in this pregnancy too, you know, and like you were so sad and she was crying and just like
sobbing in the middle of this airport.
Sobbing in the airport. And I pull up to the house. I got this beautiful message from Teresa. I'm listening to it on my drive. I'm crying. I take a deep breath. I pull onto my driveway and the 3 kids are standing in the driveway waiting for my car and Eric's there. And I pull up and I see them and I'm immediately like so like full of just like, I feel so bad that they are experiencing this again, but I'm also like so happy that I get to be with them and that, you know, I don't know, there's just like so many emotions, right? So I pull up, I get out and they all run to me. Wyatt, Esme went to run to me, Eric wrap me up in like the tightest hug, all of them. And they're crying. Like everyone has tears and everyone is like giving love. And I'm so sorry, Mom. And we love you, Mom. And like, we really wanted this. And like, you know, everybody's just like so amazing. And I said, and Eric said, we were both like, it's okay. Like this baby's going to come when this baby is meant to come. When this baby has a healthy body, like whatever it is, like it is meant to be here, you know, in its own time. And we all just like held each other and cried and had dinner together. Like we went and had dinner and then it was so funny. We were like trying to process everything together there. And then we came back and like snuggled in and watched a movie. And it was just like the next few days were many stages of what you go through in grief. Like when we woke up the next morning, we were both a little angry, like feeling feelings of like feeling duped
again.
like just like wait, what, you know, like
because that was your second, or if you include the chemical, your third.
Right, I had a chemical, but like to me that was
that didn't feel.
That was like a fading line 5 days before my period. So like my period came on the period day and I was like, okay. So, you know, for this, it was like, you know, there was just like many weeks of talking about it and I was showing too.
You were really showing.
Which
you and
was
I are
crazy.
the same. Like the moment we have the line, we have a belly.
I talk about the anger part because it was a weird feeling that we both had where I was just like, I don't know, I just feel like angry. Like, I think it was just like a stage of grief where I was just like, really? Like, I don't know. Like, this is just, I'm sad. I'm frustrated. I'm like, but I don't really know how to explain it or express it. And it was like the next day I was different too. You know, the next day I felt more like at peace and your body just has to go through its process, you know, and
so true.
I will say that the night that it happened, that I found out, I went to bed and I was looking out the window at the moon and I wrote this to Teresa. I told this to Eric, but I had this overwhelming feeling of just like peace. Like I felt so peaceful. Like it's okay. The soul is coming back to me. Like I remember thinking that I still felt pregnant. Like the baby still felt like the baby was around me. Like it was so strong, you know, and like wild. And so I don't know. I just had this like, yes, I was sad. Yes, I had these feelings I was processing. But then at the same time, I also felt like this was for a reason, like not, it wasn't going to, like, it didn't, like my body did what my body was supposed to do. And that like at some point the soul was going to come back. The other crazy thing, because America is, you know, abortion, D&Cs, all of that kind of get roped in together in certain states. And there's almost
what's
a total,
that like in Idaho?
There's almost a total ban in Idaho.
So you were like, I've got to get back to California. Well, but yeah, did you know you wanted a D&C?
I didn't, but I also was like, I didn't know that, right? But I also like felt like I needed to like get back to my healthcare provider to be like, what should I be doing? Because it's been a few weeks. Like we're already like a couple weeks past when like, you know, the baby had stopped growing. I'm spotting. Maybe my body is going to like process this. Like maybe everything's going to be able to like happen naturally. But I also just felt a little vulnerable, like being in this in-between place, you know?
Oh my gosh, the in-between.
Yeah. And so
I remember it wasn't ramping up. Like I'd check in every day. Like, is it more today? More blood?
It was only, there was like one moment where I had some blood and then that was bright red and then it went away and it didn't happen again. I didn't spot again, didn't have blood again, didn't have anything. So I ended up going to, so the clinic, the doctor that I had talked to said, you know, I really feel like you need to go home because I wish there was more that I could do for you here, but there really is. And he was right. Like there really wasn't, I didn't really have options there. And I was very lucky that I live in a state where there are options, a lot of options, you know, like you can see how your body does. We can check in with you consistently. We can give you the medicine. We can do a D&C. Like there's a lot of options.
Yeah. And had you decided because of the experience you had with the pill that you were like, that's not
Did not want to do the pill. The pill was not an option. Yeah. Right. Because when I was in Idaho, you know, he was like, I know in California, here's some of your options. And I was like, yeah, I can't even do the pill's not an option for me because my body had such a hard reaction to that. So I was like, you know, I feel like we need to like get home next week. We had about, I think 5 days or something, 6 days left that we were going to be there anyway. And I was like, I think I'm going to allow my body these 5-6 days to see if my body will release on its own. And I kind of went into this very like spiritual practice of like praying about it, you know, doing like the, you know, drinking the herbal teas and like doing the things. Like I reached out to Marisha, who we had on the podcast. She was amazing. And she told me some herbs that I could do to help with the releasing process and all of these like yoni steams I could do after. And so I was like, I felt like really loved and taken care of, which is why I want to share that with you guys, with you daisies, because, you know, when you guys DM us and you reach out about these things, it's like, we've been through it too. And it's so much better when you feel like you have a community to reach out to. And I felt really lucky that I could reach out to Teresa and I could reach out to, you know, to this herbalist, and like there's like people that I could call and say like, you know, what were your options and what did you do? And like I talked about it with Eric, you know, and he was just like very on board with my process of like, okay, I think we should like see what happens until this Thursday, and then as soon as we get back, I'll go see my doctor on Friday and we'll see like what he says. that day, and if, we're going to like do the D&C, or if we'll continue to let my body process it. When you get into like weeks and weeks and you're kind of that far along, it's a tricky, because your body can go into toxic shock if it goes on too long, right? It should be fine if you're monitored, but you also don't want to get to the place where your body is like, having a bad reaction. And if your body's not releasing, and, my doctor was saying that sometimes, like, when you get to a certain point, it's really sticky and like your body doesn't want to release. And so, we ended up going back home, and those days, like, after that, I felt very wrapped in love by my friends, by Eric's mom and dad, by Danny, my sister-in-law, by my sweet niece and nephew, my kids, like, obviously Eric. Like, we just were so unbelievably connected every moment of every day, where we were just like hugging each other and talking through it. And, we were both sad, but we were both like, it's okay. Like, this is going to happen. I bet. Like, we both just had this, like, it was a little different than the last time. Right. And so, we got home and we ended up seeing the doctor. I had to like go to the office. Eric was meeting me there. And I show up to the office, and in the hallway of the office is Teresa and her kids holding signs and giving me cards saying, I love you. And so, of course, I'm crying. It was like the sweetest.
We surprised her.
She surprised me. She had donuts.
I love you. My kids and my son, like, everyone had written cards.
We hadn't seen each other in so long. And oh my God. And her kids wrote me these letters that were like,
Bodhi's so like, the baby's coming back.
I know. It was just,
we know
so beautiful and spiritual and amazing, and just like, the best. And I was like, are you kidding me? And the woman who always does the ultrasounds, Nikki, at the office, she was like, oh my God, I love that you guys are best friends. She's like, I love her so much. She saw you. Because
I go to the office as well. Everyone saw us in there. Yeah. And I was just waiting in this weird office space. And then Sarah and the friend Anna walk up. Yes. I was so nervous, because I was like, is this the right thing to do?
It was
like,
amazing.
Does she want to see all of us here being like, we love you, we're giving you love?
It's a party. It's a party to be together and to be that loved. And I was so grateful for it. And my friend dropped me there, and Eric had to meet me there. We were coming from like two different directions. And then Eric and I went in together, and I was so nervous. Because the last time, I think, like, I don't know, like, it was with a different doctor, and the time I did the medicine was so weird.
The first time you did have a D&C, the second time was the pill.
Oh,
third time.
So this time he was just going to have a look, and then we were going to kind of see, where everything was at. And when they had a look, they were like, nothing has happened. There's no release. There's no movement. There's no nothing. Like, nothing had happened. And we were already like, at this point, it had been like 3.5 weeks post. So it was almost, I think it was like 11 weeks at this point. Yeah. And so anyway, we made the decision to do the D&C right there. And Eric was with me for the part of it. He was allowed to be with me. The doctor thought it was really funny how unbelievably sensitive I was to the medication.
Oh my God.
The medication,
it was the cutest.
he starts to put the medicine in, and he goes, wow, your eyes rolled immediately. And I was just kind of like, bloop. And then afterwards, I was like writing everyone. I was FaceTiming.
Do you remember you FaceTimed me? And I couldn't stop laughing. I was like, how are you? Like, being really sensitive. Like, you're like,
what? Oh, I'm so out of it.
She was so out of it. I've rarely even seen you drunk. And then I'm like, wait.
The reason why is because of how sensitive I am to everything. Anyway, so.
And I'll say one of the benefits of doing the D&C is you can also, and I was saying this to a friend of mine who just was weighing up options. One of the good things about the D&C is even though that, yes, there can be a small chance of scarring, you can also test the tissue, which I think can be quite liberating for anyone who sort of has any self-blame over the loss. Did you want to talk about that as well, Sarah?
Yeah. So, so we did end up testing the tissue, and there was like an issue where there was like 3 copies of the same cell. And so this baby actually never would have made it past the first trimester, no matter what. And so that
it wasn't
feeling,
listeria, it wasn't something you ate.
Exactly. I was like, all the things where I was like, what did I eat? You know, I was like, I didn't eat anything. It was like, it never would have happened. And it was like, I don't know. It did make me feel better, because then I was like not blaming myself for eating, like, you know, maybe I ate a weird cheese on a salad, or like, I don't know. Like, I was just like, did I open my mouth when I swam in the lake? Like, I don't know. It was just like dumb stuff that I know that I shouldn't blame myself for by any means. But I was normal. Like, why did my stomach get so messed up? And I was like throwing up and pooing everywhere. And like, I don't know. It was just like a weird.
Literally up the walls, pooing everywhere, just all over the place.
Okay, no, it was not. That was not. But anyway,
I felt the same way. I have to say, remember, I had blamed myself because I was like, I wasn't even trying to get pregnant, so I wasn't on prenatals. I had low vitamin D. So I just was like in a place where I was like, self-blame, my vitamin D was low, my fault.
Totally.
But then when I found out that there was something wrong with the baby, I was like, oh my God, I actually feel so much better in a weird way that the self-blame was gone.
Totally. And also it was like a really great phone call from my doctor, who was like, this is such a fluke thing. Like, it's so rarely happens. This is not like, there's literally nothing that you can do about it. And
that's right.
Like,
and
your
it doesn't
body
mean it's going to happen again. And it doesn't,
he was like, your body did exactly what it was supposed to do. And maybe that's why I had that overwhelming feeling of peace right after. Mm-hmm. And Eric and I both did. I mean, he did too, where we were both just like, we felt so like, this is okay. Like, this is going to happen. This is not happening now, but this is going to happen. And so, you know, and he's such a supportive, amazing partner. He always like talks me through all the things, you know, like after the DNC too, I was uncomfortable, and I was like, oh, do you think I'm okay? This, that, you know, he was just like so nurturing and like loving and helpful, and all the stuff. So it's really nice when you have a supportive partner. Feel like you're in it together. So anyway, that's the story. And, you know, not to like, I told it the way that I've told it because I've had many months to like process it. You know, so I know sometimes like when we tell stories and we go back and tell these stories, like, you're coming from a very different headspace than when you're in it. The last time I was very in it, it had just happened. Yeah.
And she decided to share it in her own time.
I just needed to like have a beat.
I
needed a beat. It was, I just did. I needed a beat.
And now if you go back and listen to podcasts that we recorded around that time, we often were talking about, we've been through a lot and very similar things. I know. I mean, it was pretty crazy. Like, Sarah had a loss, and then I had a loss, and then Sarah had a loss. I was like, oh no, I hope I'm next in line.
No.
No.
We actually came out of what was it? It was like, there was this moment, I forget what it was. It was like around September when we had this like reading with Angie. Remember Angie? And she was like, you know, all this stuff has to like, now all of the waiting is over, and like it's cleared, and you've like cleared everything. And I remember feeling so good after she gave us that reading, because I was like, yes, okay, we've moved on. We're on to the next. No more ping pongs.
No more ping pongs. We are good to go.
All done. So I'm trusting in that. That's what we're putting into the universe. So anyway,
you're amazing. Okay. Thank you so much for sharing that beautiful
story.
Love you guys.
Yes.
Love everyone. Thanks for listening. And if you're going through anything hard, we are with you, and we hope you can lean on your community.
Yes.
You guys are the best. We love you, daisies.
You can find us on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast.
Woo woo.
Bye.
Bye.